off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
He's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin, would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm going to have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hockey the Hockey Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast, where we sit at 100 and the Joe Juno of subscribers. Here, former Team Canada Olympian who played in the Olympics in 1988 in Calgary. Quite likely we'll be seeing sort of that lineup again in China in February. And you can also subscribe to our audio wherever that is. Wow, I'm not feeling the most happiest of to start. I'm okay though. Hello, Devin. I'm scrambling to get myself some sort of like positive radio energy in me. How are you?
I'm doing great, Kevin. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I am fantastic. Just awesome.
Listen, I'm fan-fucking-tastic too. It's been a great little stint here.
Sean, how are you?
Smile wider, Dev. Then we'll believe you.
Beautiful. Good. No, it's you know what? Honestly, it's good to be back on the podcast, even though
it's been a while.
Not much. Yeah, it has been a while. It's been over a month at least, if not a little bit more. I've been ridiculously busy with work, even not my own work, with other people's work. But you know, it. I don't know if it's karma. I don't know what I did in my past life to deserve this, but right when I was ready to start watching hockey again, nope, can't happen. Happiness does not exist, especially around Christmas.
Also, Devin, I just want to say congratulations. You made it in time for the intro.
Yeah, I'm not running in either, I guess. Yeah, you are right.
But there is a possibility you may have to run out.
Little ass backwards action. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Anyway, if you want to tell that story, you can. Chris, what's going on? Oh, go ahead. Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Why not tell the story? It's a fantastic story. I was supposed to go on a beach vacation, but it turns out, borders aren't closed yet. It's more so precautionary for Kayla and I to make sure that we're able to get back into the country. Because if we leave, there's a possibility with all these looming shutdowns like Quebec is doing tonight. And there's also a rumor that another province is going to have that as well. So we wanted to make sure that we don't have to sit around for 2 weeks doing more quarantining than we actually have to potentially. So that's why we are not going on our beach vacation. And yeah, so my heart out is potentially going to be talking to Expedia.
That is fun.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor at all. The Pigaduke is way better than Expedia.
That should be the tagline of the Pigaduke. Pigaduke, better than the Expedia.
The Expedia.
The Expedia. That's why I write commercials for a living. No, I don't. Sean, Chris, how are you?
Chris?
Decently well. Yeah, obviously the news of the past several days have not been great. Definitely not making Christmas feel very cheery, but just like everyone else, force that fake smile.
There's a reason I'm wearing beard ornaments. I'm trying to bring some cheer to this podcast. We were supposed to watch Vancouver versus Toronto on Saturday, but no. Stupid COVID had to get in the way.
Yep.
Story of the last 2 years.
Just, it just sucks, doesn't it? I know it feels weird talking about this while I've got beard ornaments and I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt, a Christmas Hawaiian shirt, and just trying to be as cheerful as possible. But it's really frustrating because I don't know. It's just really frustrating.
Well, let's get to the latest. And I'll have a bit of an opinion here that I think I think you may disagree a little bit with, but I think that there's some validity here. So let's start with Frank Saravelli's tweet an hour ago, and this has been officially confirmed. So sources tell Daily Faceoff that the NHL and NHLPA have agreed to suspend all operations from December 22nd to the 25th, and will reopen facilities on December 26th, no earlier than 2 p.m. local time, no practice, no testing during those days. Tuesday's 2 remaining games will be played pending 10 results. So coming into this week, with all the postponements, because we had the cross-border games postponed. So the Flames already were postponed to Christmas. The Canucks games, not only was the Toronto game in Arizona postponed this week, there was also 2 other games against San Jose and Anaheim were postponed as well. So basically there was no Flames, no Canucks games scheduled now for the week. Then you had the but then we were with everything with all the postponements that were in, we were down to 10 games coming into Monday that were going to be played all week, not just for one day, all week. And now we're down to 1 tonight. The Wild are playing the Stars, and 2 games tomorrow. I guess what and we haven't been on were we on since Tucker Pullman? No. Tucker Pullman at first period of the Canucks and whoever the Columbus Blue Jackets left the ice after COVID. Then Dave Tippett against the Oilers head coach. He wasn't on the bench due to COVID. I think it's over 100 and it's 16% of the players right now have been in some sort of COVID protocol. I think that probably the better and smarter thing to do after all of this, and I guess I kind of understand in one sense why they didn't. They wanted to get as many games in as possible, and everything is fluid, but they probably should have started the pause a little earlier than this week, I think, overall, because now we have just grinded to the halt where we have all decided to suspend operations, and we were going that way anyway.
I disagree. I think they needed to get as many games in as possible, because no matter what happens with the Olympics, there are building availability issues, and you need to get as many games in as possible. If there are teams that aren't shut down, and you can play with the now that they put on the border restriction, at least until Christmas, play. At least until they just.
Sorry, finish your thought.
Yeah, at least until they made this decision. You needed to get as many games in as possible, because even though there's a 3-week break for the Olympics, a lot of those arenas, a lot of those stadiums don't have the availability to make it to just say, all right, well, make them all up during that.
And on a moral and ethical level, like what I was going to bring up was the fact, like, I get where you're coming from, Kev, but a lot of these teams are still trying to make up, and the league as well, lost revenue from the last 2 seasons. So basically everyone is basically just trying to keep it as normal as possible for as long as possible, just to basically make a couple of extra dollars.
Well, I mean, the Canadians, sorry, Devin, just quickly, the Canadians and the Bruins, that empty arena game that they had, it was the Canadians and Flyers on Thursday. That empty arena, I see that point because it cost them $2.5 million. of revenue that they did not get, and that is an average at an average Canadians game. That's how much they make. So I see that part. I understand it's whole fluid. Go ahead, Devin.
Well, yeah, hindsight's 2020. You really want to make sure that the players' interests are as is at the forefront, right? And along with the revenue on top of that as well. I could see it both ways easily enough. Yeah, shutting everything down and getting everybody, okay, 2-week period, boom, and maybe we'd be able to make it up somehow. But it won't, the one hurdle with that was what Sean basically said was just you got to make sure that you have that arena availability. I did listen to the 31 Thoughts podcast this morning, and Elliot Friedman was saying that 32. Oh, Jesus Christ.
I know you haven't been on the podcast for a while, but there's a new team in the NHL. They're the Seattle Kraken.
Oh, I thought it was Houston. Okay. All right. Well,
that's next year. That's next year.
That's 2022. Don't give it away just yet.
Oh, yeah, the Florida Panthers. Awesome. Anyways, we 32 thoughts, and Friedman brought up, or I guess it was both American Friedman brought up a good point of having a bit of a baseball style format. Doesn't matter whether or not the balance of playing everybody is or each team playing each team equally is going to be the case as long as they can get 32 games or 82 games into everybody's season or close to it, whether or not they play within the Pacific Division a lot more times than the Central and the other divisions. So I think that is a good possibility going forward. The Olympics, in my mind, are completely lost. I don't see them going at all, even before this past week and a half. Once everything kind of went down with the Flames, I felt like it was pretty much done because, it just didn't make sense to me. But I think the NHL is doing everything that they can to make sure that 82 games schedule is met, and that it is kind of a fair process within that aspect.
Yeah, at this point, the only chance that Steven Stamkos has at playing for Team Canada in the Olympics is if they do what Tokyo 2020 did and push it back by a year. But considering the host city is not very friendly outside of like trade and economics with the Western world, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. With everything going on, I think we have at this point, I don't know if there is a right answer, like a silver bullet right answer to anything, whether you're running government or you're trying to run a sports league right now. I don't know. There's information out there that this latest variant is, and the facts are in terms of the players who have tested positive, a lot less severe, but it's very transmissible. So, like I said, I don't know what the right answer is. I think basically what they've done here, the NHL has done here, is adjusted their holiday schedule. They've extended it a little bit before Christmas, but they've knocked it back. Normally, the teams would get Boxing Day off. But now they will be back on Boxing Day to do testing and then hopefully practice.
Yeah.
Before they play their games on the 27th, hopefully.
Which is
so right now.
Go ahead, sorry, Sean.
Yeah, Flames versus Edmonton on the 27th is supposed to happen. Right, you're right there, Kev. And it's all up in the air right now, and I guess I don't know what the right answer is. I don't think there is a true blue right answer at this point. It's just trying to do the best, and there's no I don't know if there's a way to be proactive with this at all that is correct, and I don't know if there is a way to react properly either. So I personally think that finding a way to get as many games in as possible, as long as the teams don't have a significant amount of players that can make fielding or icing a competitive team impossible. I think in my opinion, they should continue on, but I understand why they feel the need to stop things, allow the players to get home for Christmas, not have to deal with any sort of being stuck in a hotel over Christmas. I think, or the holidays. I think that's a very fair and empathetic approach to take at this point.
Absolutely. The only flip side of that coin is you're also introducing like these players that potentially, with this much more transmissible variant, potential to either get it from their family or share it with their family over the holidays as well. So there really
they were going to be doing that anyways. Like really,
yeah, true.
So it's not. I don't think it's actually really changing that aspect.
Yeah. And one thing I just want to add, just for additional context, as the new variants kind of come out, and by no means I'm no epidemiologist, I just try and read as many facts and as many papers as I can in my spare time. But it seems like with every new variant that comes out, they become more and more transmissible, but less and less severe in the outcomes that they can cause. So it's probably going to be, just even though we're frustrated with Omicron more so than we probably were with Delta, the frustration moving forward is if it's even more transmissible moving forward, like how long are these sort of disruptions with sports leagues and society at large going to continue to happen when the results that they cause are less and less severe?
Well, I think that there is a couple of ways that there's a possibility of maybe being a little bit proactive going forward. And one way would be, we now have been through this. We're about to hit year 2 of this pandemic globally. So we now can have some sort of trends of when cases generally go up and when cases go down. Now there is going to be people that are going to point out to me that the COVID doesn't care about your time of day, and that's true. But we do know scientifically that winter has been generally more of a cold, flu, sicker time of year. When it's colder, people get sicker. That just seems to happen. So maybe going forward, instead of and I know they're never not going to do the All-Star game, but maybe the bye week instead of January, maybe there is a bit of a break between mid-December until after Christmas, kind of around this time of year. Everyone is like, okay, we just stop at this point. We try to cement that in when understanding that this is all a fluid situation, and then that we kind of develop some sort of pauses within that part of it. And it was like, from the NHL perspective, okay, we'll stop here just for now. We'll call it a COVID break. I think that's an idea that I think some people are out there are kind of thinking, like, we just have a little bit of I don't want to say a holiday, but kind of a mini little shutdown where we just move back, and then we come back in. I don't know if that's a huge solution, but it's an idea out there. I think
my only issue with that, Kev, is, again, this is going to come back to money. These holiday games are huge revenue making games for teams.
Yes. So what I know, but I'm not saying that you cut after Christmas, because that's your money maker, right? You want those type of games, but maybe you pause from something around this time of year. I don't know how it works, but there's something that we can build around that. Maybe, I don't know. And I'm not sure, but that's one idea. The other idea that has been floated out there, Devin brought it up, but maybe, And the one league that I'm very surprised, considering that the way that they did the schedule this year, that's East versus East, West versus West. I am really surprised that WHL did not go to a baseball style schedule. And because really, I mean, it's the BC division is playing primarily the BC division and the US division, although that's going to be interesting. And then it's the Saskatchewan, Manitoba teams versus the Alberta teams. So that, to me, that's surprising to me that the WHL never went that route, or any juniors went that route. That really surprises me in some way, shape, or form. But maybe that's an idea going forward, that there's some sort of, I think it's really hard to do in the NHL because of the way the schedule works, but some sort of baseball type of schedule, I think, needs to be put on the table.
Yeah, I could definitely see it, because what was it in the bubble, or not the bubble, but the North League or the Northern Division last year? Was it 3 on average? 3 games?
3. Yeah, I mean, I think
So realistically, I think 2 games would be the best. 3 games is a little overkill, a little bit of a washout, and I feel like by that 3rd game, you kind of lose a bit of interest within that kind of rivalry. So 2 games would make a lot of sense to me going forward. I do like the idea, though, Kev, that if we really want to go down the route of being like, okay, well, since we are taking a little bit, it's only about a 3-day break here from the 24th to the 26th, and then you play the 27th. If we're going down that route, okay, from the 12th on until the 27th, you have that break. And I think that is very feasible within that timeline, with that thought process. And I think the one thing that I really want to take out of this, and that I would really want to make my point within this, is that you did say it perfectly. It's fluid. It changes all the fucking time. It depends on the variant. Like Chris was saying, that it seems like the virus becomes more transmissible, but doesn't have as many effects as far as sniffles, cough, whatever the case may be. I don't know if this is true or not. I've heard rumors about it, but I will bring it up because I think it's a valid point that if you're asymptomatic, that why would you get tested? And realistically, if it isn't as deadly as we think, or as the original COVID virus, why the fuck wouldn't they just let it buck, let it run its course, let our antibodies figure it all out and go from there? I know that might be a very controversial take, but I feel like that is a reasonable take in consideration to what has transpired within the past 2 years.
In the other 3 major sports leagues, I would agree with you, but with the NHL and the fact that they have almost, I'm approximating here, my math isn't correct, but somewhere in between a quarter and a third of their teams are in Canada, and Canada is known to have much more stringent rules than the US when it comes to this sort of stuff. So it's going to severely affect your ability to be able to kind of run the league the way you want to, with the amount of cross-border traffic. With the other leagues, there's only one Canadian team, and it's right next to the border. So basically, any Toronto team can operate out of Buffalo, or like what they've done in the past season or so, partially out of Florida as well. So I get it with like the NFL, the NBA, and the MLB. But as far as the NHL, I feel like there's more complications there to make that hard to pull off.
It's a very first off, Dev, I think I know it is a controversial statement that you made, but I think it's one that at this point in where we've gone in the past 2 years, I think it's a fair one to have a discussion about. What I like about us is that even though we do get heated at times, we do respect each other's opinions, and we don't try and villainize people with who have opposing opinions. And I think we need to have that discussion. I think we need to have the discussion on, now that things have where things have evolved to, where this latest variant is a lot less severe. according to a lot of the data out there that I've seen, and I could be wrong. If you can give me something that tells me I'm wrong, please let me know. That's where I'm at here at this point. But from what I've seen is that, and from what I know, what I've read and everything, just like Chris, I'm not an expert in this, but I've done some reading, and a lot for how viruses develop is they to survive, they become more transmissible but less severe and less deadly. So, and again, we're not epidemiologists, we're not doctors, we're just going off of what we've read and what the stuff that we've gone, and we could be reading it into it wrong or whatever, but that's what we can go off of. But right now, I think it is something. I think that it needs to be have that conversation. I know that Connor Hellebuck has spoken out against it. I've talking. Steve Yzerman has talked about it as well. But on the other side, you've got Nick Cousins and Jonathan Duran who spoke out against it. Right. So it's not, that's the other thing with the NHL and the NHLPA is there's so many, just like on Twitter, just like within your friend groups and all that, there's different
society at large.
Society at large, there's different opinions. And it's why I've said I don't know what the right answer is. I don't think there's actually a silver bullet right answer. But I do think we need to have that discussion on whether or not, unless you're crossing the border, should these players be tested as much as they are?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to. I know his name because I follow it, but I can't pronounce his name. Who was the guy on Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday that Ron McLean interviewed in the second intermission? Did anyone catch that? I want to say it's Simon Chuck Boudreau, I believe is his name. I do follow him on Twitter, and I'm trying to find, sorry, because I can't remember the spelling of his name. I'm stumbling. But one of the things that he said is, so far, we are, it basically what we're seeing is it's not, it's a bit milder, but it's also, he also said it's also too early to tell. So, and one of the reasons I like following him is he's realistic. He's not like the world he's not what I've seen in some cases can be a doomsdayer in some ways, but he's also not a person that is everything is fine. I find him to be a person that I consider quite realistic when, in a very nuanced, balanced sort of way. And that's what I appreciate from this. I can't, that's what I need and what I'm looking for information. And that's kind of where I'm at. And I think, so that's part of the, I don't, you're right. There's no real solution here, and I'm not an epidemiologist, and I'm not going to make any predictions on this and how it's going to look. I hope it gets better really quickly. And it is good to see that there are some people that have been tested so far that are, it seems quite quick that they've gotten this and are back quite quickly. So that to me is a good sign. Now, the one thing I think we also need to say here and be very careful and understand about, we are talking about professional athletes, trained professional athletes with specific diets and specific regimens that are not basically part of, I don't want to say part of normal society, but their athletic body is probably better than average society body. So, I hope what's coming across here is not saying, yeah, everything will be fine. We do need to take your personal necessary precautions, whatever they are, and you need to make decisions that are best for you. We're not so, but from that perspective, from an athletic perspective, I can understand what a Steve Yzerman and a Connor Hellebuck are saying, but I also can understand what a Nick Cousins and Jonathan Duran are saying too. Like, what is the risk? I think everybody is in a very different position, and there's no necessarily right answer here. But I also I feel like there's politics both ways on this, because I think in some ways I think the image of the league is important. And if you are playing while cases are increased, it's not a good look. I think as much as everyone was happy that the Canucks winning streak continued against Columbus and they came back from that 3-0 lead, that 3-0 deficit, I don't think it was a good look that Tucker Pullman left in the first period with COVID. It's not a good look for the league, and I do think that this is something that the league. This is the other battle in here. It's not just the pandemic in and of itself. There's also the image around the pandemic that does affect the league in some ways too. And I hope I'm making some sense here, but I do think that that's part of the problem. Is I think, there's an interesting discussion in a broader perspective if we have leadership, full leadership at this point. And you'll get some people chime in about politicians or not, but I think I think that people are expecting leagues and people in forefront positions to show leadership if they're expecting people to do the same thing. So if you're asking us to stay home, hockey shouldn't be traveling. If you were asked, so I get that from that perspective. Now, can I flip this just a little bit though, or unless someone has a response to what I'm saying? Because there is another aspect of this that I don't think is being talked about enough when we're doing this.
I just wanted to talk about a little bit about the Pullman incident as well. Bruce Boudreau talked about how he returned 2 negative tests after that too. So he got pulled from a positive test, but he also returned 2 negative tests after that test. So there is a
another positive after that.
And another positive after that. There's a lot of gray area right here. And it's just like, I don't know, right? So I as much as bad as the optics could be with everything that went on there, and Dave Tippett as well, and it's not just the Canucks too. I think there was a Flyer. There's a Philadelphia Flyer who got pulled as well.
I can't remember who it was, but I do know that same night that Pullman got pulled, there was another player in another game that same night that also got pulled after the end of the first period.
So it's just there's so much going on, and I don't know if you're telling people to stay home. But the other thing, Kev, with that is the mental break that watching hockey, watching sports can provide to a very, very, very worn down public. Very, very, very just beaten down and, for a lack of a better term, depressed public.
Okay, let me counteract that.
It's been a really, really, really crappy 2 years here.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot, and there's a lot of us who rely on being able to watch sports as an escape, because otherwise we're just doom scrolling through Twitter looking at the numbers.
Well, here's my counteract to that, though. I understand what you're saying, but here's the other side of that. Is what about the mental health of these players? We are asking them to, there are players that are missing their family. I mean, not to bring up Travis Hamonic in a way to defend him, because that's not necessarily my point, but what Travis Hamonic went through about his vaccination status, his family situation, that wasn't easy. I mean, you've had players giving birth to children during his time that they couldn't see. There's been situations, Nate Schmidt and the isolation probably didn't help him in his time in Vancouver. How are we supporting the mental health of the hockey player, though, as well as the other part of that? You're right, but your hockey enjoyment isn't the only thing on the table. And one of the things I like that Jeff Merrick said today was, it's not always about me. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying.
No.
But that's the balance that we're trying to battle here.
You know what? It goes both ways. It goes absolutely both ways within that, because I'm not trying to stir the pot here within politics, but you have players who want to play, you have players who don't want to play, you have people who want to work, you have people who don't want to work. It's quite an interesting conundrum that the entire society is in, and whether or not it's hockey players, whether or not it's frontline workers, grocery clerks, warehouse workers, electricians, plumbers, it's all the same shit. It really is. And that's something we need to really have at the forefront within this conversation, is that we all are people, no matter what. If we're billionaires, millionaires, someone who is close to me, who is very, very, very wealthy within the world, has COVID, and he is not able to do anything that he wants to do. It doesn't matter whether or not you are, once again, paying the bills paycheck to paycheck, or if you're a millionaire. Like, we're all human beings, so we all need to make sure that we have that at the forefront, and that really isn't as of right now. So, like, within this conversation, we just need to make sure that we take an effect of how it really affects everybody as a whole. And it really is super hard. So the fact that Sean says that, there is really no right answer, no silver bullet, he's 100% right. I don't know exactly where it lands, but I know that the majority of us are fucking sick of this shit, that we want to get back to some sort of normality. And I don't. I kind of lost my thought of context within just talking hockey there. But that I think that we are all humans, needs to be at the forefront, and I know that that's been the beating of the drum from the majority of us. At least I hope it is, at least, to make sure that we all have each other's backs within that.
Well,
but Kev, before you go on, just an update. 5 minutes ago, the NHL PR Twitter account just tweeted out the official that they are officially closed until December 26th, when they open up at 2 p.m. local time.
So the other side of this that I wanted to bring up that's not being talked about enough. I mean, it's easy to have all these debates about NHL shutdowns and what we should do. There are a group of players, and this is both male and female, by the way, and I want to bring that, I think this is an important context, that are having their young hockey careers stalled at this point. I think that question is, an example is the Max Major tournament, which, and maybe I'll go adult here, before even the Spengler Cup, which is an opportunity for some former NHLers to play in Europe. Canada has pulled out. Claude Julien has went home, but I think the Max Major tournament, I think, is certainly a question. I know the BCAHL, I think we're going to make a decision about whether the Northwest Hawks, Northeast Chiefs, and Greater Vancouver Canadians were going to go. And other teams as well are going through that. And one of the things that is not being talked about is these kids, like, and this is any professional, any sport, I won't want to say professional, but any sport, there are kids working really hard, and their careers are being shortened because of this, because of this pandemic. And I feel for them. This is like Max is a major tournament that we've seen major alumni come out of. It's a great opportunity to be scouted by different hockey leagues. And that's, having that as a stall hurts. The allowing some players to continue on, and doing stuff that they, as Devin said, they want to do, right? So, there's, there's, a couple years ago with the juniors, the last couple of years with no Memorial Cup for 2 years, there's been an opportunity for some teams to, for players to get that have missed out on that because they've aged out. University championships aged out. Even football, Vanier Cup aged out. CFL, and they're not making millions of dollars like the National Hockey League or NFL. Aged out, in a lot of ways, have to retire. I just, in terms of sporting and Olympics, if you move it another year, which, I mean, is a fair question, there will be people that will not be able to go, or, that extra year may prevent them from going to the Olympics. It's hurting a lot of people in a lot of different ways.
As
and
a
to
guy,
open it up to even society at large, you can also make the argument about just kids and their education during COVID as well. But obviously, that's kind of a total aside. I just want to bring that up as additional context. Go ahead, Devin.
as a guy who played in the Max midget tournament for 3 to 4 years, I can't imagine being your last year and having that taken away from you. It's fucking gutting. I couldn't imagine having that happen to me. Because Kev, you are right. That's a premier spot for you to get scouted and able to further your hockey career, whether or not that is junior A, junior B, WHL, going overseas and playing. I have a guy who I played hockey with for years who's playing in the German league. And he got scouted through the Max Midget tournament. So it's one of those things where you really just feel for these kids, and you want to support them in any way possible. I don't know what that looks like, but it's nothing less than gutting for those type of opportunities, whether or not it's through the Max or Memorial Cup. It really sucks, or Spangler Cup for that matter, playing for your country.
For those who don't know, the Max tournament here in Calgary is has been an annual tournament for what was called midget hockey at the time for years. Is now what, U18?
Yep. Yeah, they've switched it to U18. It's U18, U17, and U15 in BC anyway.
Okay.
I don't know how they're going to age the route.
Players who have played in this tournament include Jay Bouwmeester, Sidney Crosby, Jordan Eberle, Zach Parisi, Devin Holmes-Smith, Dana Merzen. I'm just looking at Peter Nedved.
Hey, speaking of which, that's his stick behind me.
Former Team Sweden member, current Flame, Mikael Backlund, who Devin actually played against in an exhibition game before the tournament even started. Jerome McGinley, Danny Heatley, it's a who's who of alumni who have played in that tournament, and it's a huge part of the holiday season here in Calgary, and it's seeing these kids being able to play and get, as Devin said, get scouted for whether it is WHL, OHL, any CHL, or it's NCAA, and then you go on and build your career from there. It's huge, and if there's any teams that don't get to go to this tournament after being announced for it because of restrictions and everything, wherever they're coming from, that's just it's frustrating, and it's just I feel for anyone who has had major opportunities being taken away from them, regardless of sport, activity, job, or whatever. It just sucks. And like I said, we can go into, man, we could go into some of like details and stuff and try and spitball ideas, but as I said, I don't know what the right answer is. I don't think there is a silver bullet right answer to the situation. All I know right now is that I just really hope that they get back going and playing games on the 27th and onwards, because it's part of our let alone the World Juniors. Like what's going to happen with the World Juniors? If they were in any other province in Canada, I'd be a lot more worried. But I still think we're going to see fans in the stands, at least 50%. But I don't know how you would choose what 50% gets to go. But I'm pretty sure we're going to see full crowds in Red Deer and Edmonton for this. For the World Juniors upcoming. And Dev, guess what? You'll be able to see some hockey on the 23rd. U.S. versus Finland at 2 p.m. Calgary time, and then Canada versus Russia at 5.
I can't believe I'm about to utter the sentence I'm about to say, but thank Kenny for a little bit of stability compared to like the fact that Ontario, Quebec, and BC are basically all going to be shutting down.
You said it, not me, Chris.
I'm not saying a single word at this point. Not a word, nothing.
I'm sure I'll regret it in 2 seconds, but as far as the outside of Alberta, I'm not sure the World Juniors happen this year.
Or we're just gonna have another. We would just have another one for similar to last year with no fans.
Yeah, and I still don't think that that's not out of the realm of possibility for the World Juniors, to be honest with you. If I bought a ticket to the World Juniors, I wouldn't necessarily be writing my plans in pen that I'm going. As Elliot Friedman says, everything changes within 15 minutes.
Just like the 32 Thoughts can be outdated after 15 minutes, so can the Hockey Podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Bye, guys.
Oh, are you running?
Oh, he had the heart out. Expedia called.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. Apparently, Expedia is on the other line. So, bye, Devin.
All right. Devin does the run out.
He doesn't run in, but he runs out.
Yeah. Well, hopefully,
he doesn't get all the fun talk we've got coming up with either.
Yeah, he was only here for the depressing topic.
Yeah,
I guess that's a good transition. Do you want to move to non-COVID talk?
Yeah, I mean, if people have any questions, we're going to now talk. I think it's important. There's still some hockey to talk about, and there's still some interesting things that did happen. And we'll start with the Canucks. And Jim Rutherford is, of course, president. He's been in large and in charge, and it certainly, I mean, it's hard that since the games have been postponed to kind of sort of get a feel of where everything is in the Canucks line, because I kind of feel everything's kind of been on that focus. But the search for assistants GMs continue. One was hired. Derek was hired. Stan Smeal was promoted to VP of Hockey Operations. Derek Clancy. I wanted to call him Derek Ramsey. I was just going to type his name, so I was going by memory. Glad I didn't say it. I'm glad I let someone else pick that puck up. But now another name, Hockey Night in Canada, his own Jennifer Botterill's name has come into fray. And I want to say this. If the Canucks do not hire her for whatever reason, I would like the NHL to hire her. I think that she should actually be in the Department of Player Safety. That would be the role I want Jennifer Botterill in. I think she's innovative. I think she's compassionate. I think that is her passion. And I think we would see some really interesting things in terms of what player safety is and how it is handled that's more innovative than what's coming out of the NHL right now. But there's a possibility that she is going to be assistant GM. There is a connection through her brother, Jason Botterill, has worked under Jim Rutherford and was a GM of Buffalo. And there are organizations finally in the year of our Lord 2022 going to hire women in high-end hockey executive positions. Good Lord, that's about time, other than Haley Wickenheiser. So I guess from that perspective,
don't forget about Tammy Granado.
Yeah, as a scout, right? Yeah,
and then I'm sorry that I don't remember her name, but the head of analytics for Seattle is also female.
Right, and yes, and the GM. The fact that we can name only on one hand how many is an issue. I think we can agree with that. But do we see this happening where I mean, I guess the sad part is she would not be on Hockey Night in Canada anymore, but she would be in an organization, I think, a valuable member of an organization.
And could make a substantial impact as well.
Yeah. Just to build off of that, the three names that have been out there, and the way I look at it is if Jim Rutherford wants something to happen, it's going to happen. And if it gets out there that he wants something to happen, look out. It's going to happen pretty imminently. They are looking at Andrew Legerio, former Team USA hockey player, Jana Hefford, and as you said, Jen Botterill, both from former Team Canada hockey players. Jana Hefford is currently in a role with the PWHA, I believe. And
I believe that's what they said on 32 Thoughts. So yeah, that sounds right.
I was going to say the PHF, but I'm pretty sure it's PWHA. But yeah, I think it's gonna. I think one of those three are going. If there's any truth to the reporting, I think it's going to happen. I think one of those three will be brought in. I do think, as you said, Kev, with the inside track, Jen Botterill probably has the inside track with Jason Botterill. Already have worked with Jim Rutherford in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the hire. And yeah, it would suck to lose her off of Hockey Net in Canada because she has been a breath of fresh air and something different on there, and in a very, very good way. And someone who doesn't back down from Kevin Bieksa, which is actually absolutely fantastic. And I think it'd be great because I know everyone was like, oh yeah, you have to just hire the people with the right credentials. What if being coming from a different background in hockey is a credential? What if having a different mindset is a credential that you're looking for? And that's what Jim Rutherford's looking for. He's looking for people who come from different backgrounds, who can give different ideas, and it's not the same old story from 1970 to now. That's why he's looking for that. It's not because, and it's not because she'd be the quote unquote token woman. That's not at all how Jim Rutherford operates. If you follow, like, that's not the vibe I get at all. He's looking for people who can speak their mind and people who will bring different ideas and fight for what they want. That's why he brought in Jared Flack. Go for it, Chris.
I was gonna just add that it's what was I about to say? It's awesome in the sense that, like, I don't mean any disrespect to Rutherford about this, but basically a recycled old white guy is one of the guys trying to lead the charge of bringing fresh blood into the league.
Well, that's how it happens too.
Yeah,
you have to have someone from the old guard to actually say, "Oh, look, different ideas is a good thing." So
also, and wouldn't it be cool if we ended up hiring Jason as the GM and then having his sister as an assistant GM? I think that would be kind of a cool connection.
I don't think it happens though.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's likely. I'm just saying it would be cool.
Daryl and Brent Sutter didn't work out. That's all I'm going to say. I don't always.
That's the Sutters. They're built differently, Kev.
They're a little more stuck in their ways. I think it's fair to say.
Okay, let me maybe throw it this way: could you and Devin Holmes Smith run a hockey team together?
Yeah, we'd find a way. There would be heated debates for sure, but we'd find a way.
You didn't sound as confident as Chris did that the Jason Jennifer Botterill thing would work.
But I honestly think that a brother-sister dynamic has a lot different dynamics than a brother-brother who have both played sports dynamic.
But honestly though, like if that happens, they would have done the talk, had the talks, and figured out whether or not it would work. I just don't think Seattle lets Jason Botterill go. I just don't think Seattle lets Jason Botterill go, or the name on the street is Patrick Alvin as potentially, or even McFarland out of Colorado is getting some talk as well.
Yeah, I will agree that those two are probably the two at the top of the list right now.
And I think I said whatever they come up with, it looks like they're going for something a little bit more different. They're not going to be going for the same old, and they're going to see what happens. And
I'm not sure if we want to specifically use this word, but might be appropriate. Progressive.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see what the next hires are. But if they are looking at a Jen Botterill or an Angela Ruggiero or a Jana Hafford, you can use that term.
Yeah. There are still, young people can have an old school mentality though too. So older folks can be more progressive too. I just because a gentleman has white hair, yes, I understand what people are feeling about that, but they can be progressive. If you look at, again, I've said this before, look at Brian Burke's resume. He's more progressive than people give him credit for.
And you can make the argument the same thing with Boudreau and Rutherford. They both are old on the older side, but they both seem to embrace where the league is going as opposed to being stuck in their ways.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I think we will see another hire here real soon if these reports are true, and I think it will be one of those three.
I'll put money that it's before the new year. I won't commit to anything more specific than that, but before the new year, I have a general feeling that it's going to happen before then.
I take the under on that.
I would. You think after the new year?
Before?
No, under is before.
I think with everything going on, I think it's probably mid-January. I think I would agree. I would agree with you. I would have agreed with you that it would have been done before the end of the month, but I kind of feel like with everything going on and trying to handle getting your grip on what the situation was with the players, they may just put it off just for a little bit, and it may be mid-January.
See, I see it as the opposite way. I see it as it becomes even more priority to get more people in there to help get a grasp on this, to help guide the ship going forwards.
And not only that, but you don't have people focusing on games, so maybe focus on the AGM hunt.
Yeah, it is a bit of a distraction. I mean, it is December 20th, so you're with a 4-day weekend coming up, New Year's, even though nobody's going out, that's 8 business days.
Yeah, we'll call it a week, a business week.
Okay. I will take that bet because I think it's going to be after.
All right, a beer.
Yes, I'm gonna.
Next time I see you, Kev.
Yeah, a beer. I'll send it through the mail. Maybe get there faster than Devin deals with Expedia, but who knows? Who knows? There goes that Expedia sponsorship that we were so hoping for.
I'm pretty sure I sank that right off the top when I said not a sponsor.
Yeah, and then I just dug in the dirt a little bit more there. Yeah, we're dead. Yeah.
No, don't worry. We've got the Pig and Duke, and and then Chris and I are going there tomorrow for their Christmas party.
There we go. The other thing, and I guess the one thing we never just went back, and I think this is an interesting. What will be an interesting dilemma is how teams come back on December 27th. Now, you could be in a situation. Now, the Flames and the Oilers were not going great. I mean, the Oilers did their last game. They did beat the Kraken on Saturday. The Canucks were on a hot streak. The Flames were in a slump. The Flames were on a losing streak. It's an interesting reset to see what happens here. Now, in terms of how teams prepare, and the Flames, particularly. Sorry, Chris. I just want to touch on the Flames here for a little bit. I know that that's not a team you particularly follow as much, but they are the ones that were definitely the hardest hit of COVID. So how they come out of that gate, and then if it is as scheduled that their next game is against the Edmonton Oilers, that's fascinating. Becomes a more fascinating game to me. You're off for 2 weeks. You face your rival, I guess. In a becoming an important game because Look who moved into first place all of a sudden, everybody. Hi, I'm Vegas. I'm back in first place in my rightful position.
The one thing I will say, though, is that, the Flames are this season's version of what the Canucks were last season. But because, A, vaccines are readily available, and B, it's a less severe variant, I feel like the Flames aren't as in deep of a hole as what Vancouver felt when they were trying to make their way clawing back from COVID. That being said, the Canucks won that first game back against the Leafs. So anything's possible.
Adrenaline. It does wonders. Even just looking at the schedule, you got Flames and Oilers. As long as the both of those teams have enough players out of protocol by then, I think they might be able. Even the ones that, because it's what, a week, or is it 2 weeks?
It feels like it's been at least 2 weeks since the Flames have played.
What I'm saying is the protocol, NHL protocol. How long do they have?
Podcast.
How long do they have to be? It's 10 days.
Yeah.
So
I want to say it was the 14th is when they really got hit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, as long as there's no other symptoms and stuff, I think most if not all the Flames should be back by the 27th.
Yeah, because I think it was the 14th and 15th that like 2/3 of the team basically went down. So yeah, by the 27th, that's cleared 10 days.
Yeah. The issue is more the Oilers. They're going to be without Darnell Nurse if that's the case. If it's 10 days, because he got added today, as well as William Lagesson. So we'll see. Like Canucks are supposed to play Seattle in Vancouver. So I really don't know what to expect at this point. Little peek behind the curtain here. I added to our agenda to talk about how different teams are handling this, because at this point, earlier on this today, I wanted to talk about how, well, look, Bruce Boudreau gets a little mini camp to get players a little more accustomed to the systems and style he wants. He got a little bit of one. Unfortunately, now they've shut every team down.
And so not only that, but with what BC is potentially announcing tomorrow, and who knows what the government of Canada might do for international travel, like who knows? That game against Seattle might be in jeopardy to a degree. We don't know.
Do we go back to a North Division again? I'm not sure I would want that again.
I don't think anyone wants that, but whether it might be a realistic option if it continues this way, who knows? Like throwing out predictions right now is like trying to win a game of roulette.
Yeah, I mean, I think the NHL will want to try to get some games going here. I think you're right. I won't make any predictions on this, but I mean, it is going to be interesting when it comes back, and hopefully it comes back sooner rather than later. How the teams are going to prepare and that rust and all of that, and also, I guess it's what people have taken. I think it's going to be interesting in terms of what innovations. If there's some of these teams after dealing with a third pandemic trial kind of year, what innovations are out there in terms of conditioning and all of that. So that will be interesting as well. But sorry, I didn't want to bring us back to COVID. I wanted to kind of talk about what really, I guess my whole point is there is an opportunity for the teams out of the playoffs to reset their year and say, okay, you know what, if we want to make a run, we have a chance. Except if you're Arizona, you don't have a chance. But, other teams like Montreal, as an example, I mean, they made this run to get back. I mean, they made a run to get to the final. Maybe this helps them a bit. I mean, Jeff Petrie talked about a lack of structure there. Maybe Ducharme figures out something about the structure, and maybe the team kind of gets it together during this time. Who knows? But there are the New York Islanders. I don't believe the New York Islanders are as bad as they are playing right now. This could help them kind of revive. You look at the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they haven't. Mike Sullivan is one of my early nominees for Jack Adams, considering what that team has been through all year, and not having Evgeny Malkin and having the Penguins hang in there. And if they can get Malkin back, they will be in good shape. On the other hand, you look at Dylan. Maybe the Anaheim Ducks fall. We've been some have speculated that happens. You've got.
Although if Anaheim stays going, I'd throw in Dallas Eakins into the Jack Adams conversation if they finish the season strong.
Yeah,
the thing with Anaheim is they've got so much piss and vinegar with the young players. I don't think this hurts them.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think they care. They're like, okay, we're just playing hockey. Cool. Do I have a skates and uniform, stick and equipment? Awesome. Let me go play hockey.
We're in the other thing, Kev. We're in December. Would you have said that? Would you have believed me if I said you at Christmas the Oilers would be only in the second wild card spot?
Probably. To be honest with you, I don't.
Would you believe me that Minnesota would be leading the Central? No,
I don't think Minnesota is as big of a surprise as Anaheim or as far as Edmonton dropping off. But yeah,
I think
like I said, the way I look at it, I thought Edmonton was would be a lock throughout the year to be in the top 3 in the Pacific, not in the second wild card spot.
Well, that losing streak definitely hurt them in the standings for sure.
Well, and again, as Graham Mosman said, and Dave Tippett hasn't made a good trade. So maybe
Ken Holland.
Yeah, right. Sorry, Ken Holland, not Dave Tippett. Damn
How dare you, Dave Tippett,
coach? Learn better. No, Ken Holland hasn't made a good trade. So I don't know. I still think that losing. If I'm an Oilers fan, I get why I'm angry that the team is in the second wild card spot from a fan perspective. I think for this team that losing streak is probably going to help them more than I think that they realize. That team has went through so little adversity and everything has been about the Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl show that they need to figure out. They need that Anaheim piss and vinegar in that organization and figure out how to win tough games. Because I still don't
build a blue line.
Absolutely.
I was going to say they just need to work on their defensive side of their game.
As Dylan was saying, Fogel for Bear isn't bad, but they still needed to figure.
Especially with Mike Smith out, I think that Edmonton is probably in the flower. What's the word I'm looking for? Like the flower sweepstakes at the trade deadline. I would not be surprised.
Well, let's looking at the wild card as we just flip all over the place now. You look though here at the wild card situation. So you've got Minnesota.
That's only 6 points out.
Yeah. So you've got Colorado in the first wild card position. That is a big surprise to me. I would not have had that. Yes, Vancouver is 6 out, but Colorado has 4 games in hand on them. I'm just trying to bring some realisticness into this conversation. Vancouver's played more games than anybody else in that wild card race. That's the one concern I would have. Yes, they've won 6 in a row. They are the second hottest team in the Western Conference. I will grant them that, but that's the one issue I would say.
We dug a very deep hole at the start of the season. We are almost seeing outside of the hole at this point.
Well, there's not only Colorado
When
that's
you-
an interesting
yep.
issue. Go ahead.
The one thing with Colorado, though, Kev, is they've played the least amount of games. And in terms of winning percentage, they're second in the Central.
Yes. Yeah. And they
So
haven't
if you're
had
gonna
decent.
make that comment about the Canucks, then the other side of the coin is Colorado being, yes, they only have 36 points in 27 games, but that's a 667 points percentage, which is higher than both Nashville and St. Louis.
I think it might have been filler just on the Merrick show, but I think I recall Merrick and Friedman at some point talking about Colorado questioning their goaltending right now, and throughout the what if they get Price out of Montreal and get a franchise goaltender from the Habs a second time.
I don't understand. I do not understand the hate against Kemper here. I don't. The only issue with him is staying healthy, and if you're going to get any, if he can get hot just as likely as any other goaltender.
And like I said, it was probably just fodder to fill airtime on the radio show, but still, they brought it up as an idea, and I just found it amusing because
I was listening to that. I can't remember what guest they had on, and I was just like wanting to throw stuff at my computer because I was like, that is a horrible take.
I just found it amusing.
I don't know. I think that the Kemper's health issue is if you're going to go on a long run and you have a goaltender with a health issue, that's not great. Colorado in the bubble had goaltending issues because of health, and they weren't able to get past Dallas. So I could see them possibly being in a hunt for a goaltender.
I just don't see it being Price.
And Price is probably a long shot, and they're probably just throwing that out there just because of the amusing anecdote part of it. But what I'm more curious about is, like Toronto, if they have two injury-prone goaltenders, if that's something that's going to hamper them as far as playoff success. Because these are both Toronto and Colorado, two teams that have high aspirations, but have not been able to make it happen in the playoffs.
If Colorado's going after any goaltender, why aren't they going after Marc-Andre Fleury?
Well, that would be the logical idea to me. But
if you're going for one Stanley Cup, yes. If you're going for the future, no.
Well,
I honestly look at it as in let's see here. Where is Colorado's roster on Cap Friendly? This is really good podcasting. I'm just muttering away here. Kemper's got 1 year left. Francouz has got 1 year left. They're going to have the cap space to go after a goaltender that can be more of a long-term fix.
That's why I was thinking that they're not going to be going after Flower.
But if you're going to go for it this year, and I think you have to go for it this year. Why not go for Flower? Depending on what the price is.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Depending on what Chicago's management situation is like and what they're going to demand for a price.
Yeah. That's certainly. And
half that equation is Chicago's management situation. That's just as much of a question mark as where Fleury's going to end up post-trade deadline.
There is another sneaky name out there that I don't think people are paying attention to, but I do wonder. The Stars have 4 goaltenders right now.
3 because Bishop retired, right?
Oh, right. Okay, but still, one of them has a ring.
Only 2 at the NHL now because they sent down
Hudobin. We went through this 2 years ago, Kev. We went through this in the bubble. It's Hudobin, not Hubodin.
Okay, Anton. Look, my day is spent speaking pneumococcal pneumonia, so you just leave me alone, okay?
But But no, I believe Dallas's goaltending situation is Holtby and Ottinger.
Okay, and Holtby has won a Stanley Cup. He is a UFA in 22-23. I'm just saying, that's a sneaky guy. He has a cup.
If Dallas is willing to let go of him, sure. But I'm not sure Dallas wants to because I think he's been their best goalie so far this season.
Yeah.
Well, it'll depend on where Dallas ends up because they're not in a playoff situation.
But just like Bucks, who knows where they'll be at the end of the season?
Yeah.
Now,
I'm looking at Kev, if we're going to talk about a goaltender who's sneaky, Jonas Korpisalo out of Columbus. Come on.
And that is actually a franchise that has an abundance of decent goaltenders too.
Okay, but if you're Colorado, my only question is why would you take him over Darcy Kemper?
To be honest, I don't know enough about Korpisalo to really have a strong opinion either way.
Yeah, that's my
He's an Ian
issue.
Clark guy. No, well, but that's the thing. Like, why would you take? That's that again. That's where I'm at. What is the price on Price? He's got, and is he willing to move out of Montreal? I don't think so.
Even with
Flower
how
makes a lot of sense for.
I just feel like Montreal is enough of a tire fire this season that I think they might disassemble that roster.
Yeah, but the only thing, and I've been thinking about this too, I would think that a Carey Price move wouldn't happen trade deadline. I think a Carey Price move is an off-season move. I just don't think, because if I'm the Oilers and if I'm the Avalanche,
which is why
I just don't think that you can give up the assets at this particular point for a guy that you're not sure is ready to go. And even now that we have this delay, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced we're seeing Carey Price this year, and I don't think the Oilers can afford to make that move, and I don't think Colorado can afford to make that move.
And I'll agree with that. I think. Sorry, go ahead, John. I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, which is why I think it has to be short term for this season, and then you look long term in the off season. If you're Colorado specifically, Edmonton I think is a bit different. I don't have a good read on what I think. If I'm Edmonton, I'm keying in on Jonas Korpisalo and seeing if you can get him.
And yeah, as far as Price, yeah, I would agree that offseason makes more sense because Carey is the level-headed type of guy that he would want to see what this Habs team looks like by season's end, not just if it was a horrible half-season funk.
And the other thing with going back to Holt, Kev, he's 32.
Yeah, if I'm Colorado though, what I like about that is, if Kemper doesn't work out and he does get injured, you have a cup-winning goaltender as your backup for depth.
I don't think you need that, though. I just think you need someone who can be like Colorado would have gone to the Cup final in the bubble if they actually had an NHL caliber goaltender in net. That's all they need in net.
Yeah, that's why I'm making the argument for Holtby though. Because I just don't see Dallas looking to trade him at this point. They're right in the middle of this conversation. They had a rough start, but they're still only they're still right within that wild card hunt. And what are they're only 6 points out as well, and they've got games in hand. I
see where Kevin is coming from as far as the appeal for the player, but I agree with Sean in the sense of I don't see Dallas letting him go.
There's one more team that is sneaky that, I mean, depending on the situation, they're pricey, but you've got Varlamov and Sorokin on the island. That could be an option too. Varlamov,
they won't be trading Sorokin. He is the future there.
Varlamov has a modified no move, $5 million until 23. 33 years old.
Varlamov back to Colorado for a playoff run?
Forgot he was there.
But if you're the Oilers, maybe I don't know. Sorry, Devin isn't here to defend himself. I still don't trust Jack Campbell. I know I have my Canuck colors on, so you can call me a little biased on this. I would still take Demko over Campbell for the U.S. Olympic team. I think Demko has been more reliable. Campbell's health is a question to me. Mrazek's health is a question to me. I know that Leaf fans are going to disagree with me, but I don't trust Jack Campbell.
As far as long-term stability, I agree. Yeah, I think Demko is the more stable, reliable choice. I guess the only argument that would be pro Campbell right now is his numbers this season have been insane, and that is what's carrying him to the potential Olympic roster. Otherwise, if it wasn't Campbell's season that he's had, I think Demko is in that 3.
The way, taking it back to Varlamov, this modified no trade clause, he submits a 16-team no trade list. So you got half the league you can trade him to. And why wouldn't he want to go back to Colorado or Toronto? Hell, even Edmonton, if it's 1 or 2 years.
Dylan has a decent comment with what about Gorgiev?
That's an off-season move. I look at that, and where the Rangers are, you want to have that. You want to have that two-headed monster going into the playoffs.
That's fair.
Yes, Shesterkin is likely the best goaltender in the league right now, but having a really good backup to him is huge.
Yeah, a 1A, 1B combo is deadly for sure.
That is an off-season move. That might be a move that Colorado looks at in the offseason, that Edmonton looks at in the offseason, that Toronto
any
looks
goalie desperate team will look at. Yeah.
The one team we didn't talk about in the Western Conference that I think they did not make a significant move. Their coach made a significant decision, and Paul Maurice stepped away from the Winnipeg Jets. Dave Lowry will be taking over for the rest of the year, but the Winnipeg Jets are 3 points out of the playoffs. They have a loss to Buffalo and a loss to Arizona this year. This is a very, very interesting team. Because they have you have your legitimate top-end talent. Connor Hellebuck, top end. Mark Scheifele, top end. Kyle Connor. Good grief, Kyle Connor, folks. Nikolai Ehlers is there.
Yeah, it's the team. Honestly, it feels like the team of underrated players. Because you get the local fan base who is always very hypercritical on players, but they don't get the national coverage in terms of like Vancouver or even Calgary and Edmonton, let alone Toronto, Montreal get.
But they are missing what the Flames got. And legitimately Trevor Lewis has been a phenomenal ad for Calgary. But you look also, Mason Appleton has been a miss. That bottom end of that roster isn't that strong.
Losing
you
Appleton
don't have Mason
is huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I still don't think that defense is quite up to snuff. I mean, I think Dylan and Schmidt were solid ads, but I don't know if they have that top end at defenseman. I'm not sure Josh Morrissey and Neil Pionk are there. That depth really concerns me. I don't think Eric Comrie is the same as Laurent Brossoit. They're missing a lot of grit to me. That is very concerning for me if you're Winnipeg. I don't know if I see them in the playoffs right now. Like I'm not, I didn't make any predictions this year, but I'm not sure right now I see Winnipeg in the playoffs.
Since this is kind of turned into a what if episode, I just want to throw out a comment that I put into our group chat the other day, and I just scrolled back enough to find it again. So Dave Lowry, Adam's dad, is the head coach to the Jets. Eric Dubois, Pierre-Luc's dad, is currently working with the Manitoba Moose. Call up Eric Dubois, bring in Heinz Ehlers, Nikolai's dad, and you will have the holy trinity of dads coaching their sons. And I just find that too amusing of a thought to not consider. I know the realistic thing, well, it'll never happen. It's just amusing as hell.
Again, Dubois, talk about a guy who got absolutely lambasted last season for underperforming, and everyone started questioning him.
And now he's borderline an MVP. Yeah.
He's the Bo Horvat of that team.
Oh.
In a lot of ways. And like just sort of a rock solid guy. That kind of like the Michael Backlund, the Bo Horvat, that rock solid player, that rock solid forward in the middle. And that's a guy that was totally affected by it. What a weird weird year he had.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just never felt settled. Now that he actually has been there for a while and had a full training camp with them and all that, now that he's had a chance to prove himself, he's back to the regular old Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dubois was... I remember when Columbus grabbed him early and people were surprised. But I think when he's at the top of his game, you see why.
Yep,
and,
I agree.
But going back, yeah, I think the depth. I think the blue line is good enough in Winnipeg. I think you've got my only issue is I don't think you've got a pure puck moving defenseman. I think you've got enough grit on the blue line with Pionk being an absolute like he doesn't shy away from being physical. Neither does Brendan Dillon. Neither does Dylan DeMello. My issue is I don't think they've got a true puck moving defenseman on that blue line. I think that's hurting.
I have a name to throw out there. Jakob Chychrun. And it's on the agenda.
I mean,
I don't. From what I am led to believe, is the Chychrun offers are high, but they're not out of price range, and the teams are interested in doing it. Now, everyone's pointing to the Oilers, and I would agree that the Oilers should definitely be involved in that conversation. But the Jets have some prospects that they can give up.
Are they willing to give up Cole Perfetti? If I'm Arizona, it starts and ends with that. You get Cole Perfetti, and if they aren't willing to give up with it, you say you move on because you're going to be able to get your team's top.
I would hear that because it's a solid now versus a solid future bet. It's whether you want to be patient or whether you want now, and I honestly think that would make a whole lot of sense if the Jets were in the position to pick them up.
Yeah, I think that would be probably the best. I mean, it depends on how Arizona is handling it. We went through the Jack Eichel situation, and Buffalo seemed to focus in on one or two prospects. If that's Arizona's strategy, I would think I don't think the Oilers have a prospect close to Cole Perfetti, and maybe that's a Broberg or a Bouchard. I don't know if I'm the Jets or I'm the Coyotes. I would be starting with Evan Bouchard. Like that would be the first name I would be asking about, and maybe an Xavier Bourgeau. But if the Jets are going to offer me Perfetti, I would look at Perfetti over Bourgeau.
Bourgeau, the guy that I had nothing to say about when we tried to do our mock draft, and I just went by rankings, and then I was like scrambling to try and find something, and now he's going to be a key member of the World Juniors. He haunts me. But the way I look at it, Kev, is but I also heard that I don't think I believe it was, I can't remember who it was, where I was listening. It might have been 32 Thoughts. It might have been the Merrick Show. I actually think it's one of those. But the talk is that Edmonton's not in it because I think the price is too high for Edmonton. Not that if they had the assets, they would pay it. I think that if they had the assets, they'd make that move. But
it's the organizational depth that has taken them out of the equation. Yeah.
Which is, again, going back to Winnipeg, why I think it starts and ends with Perfetti. Because he is a stud forward up front that they can build around in Arizona if they get him.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have him, you have Barrett Hayden. You have put those two together to build around up front. Then you got Victor Soderstrom on the back.
And Dylan Guenther.
Dylan Guenther as well up front.
Although if I'm Arizona, I just don't understand why they're even dangling him. Like, he's the best part of your future right now.
It's not. Yeah, that's the other thing. He's not even that old. He's 23.
Exactly. Like, if he was 26, 27, I could understand this. But he's 25.
I think he wants a fresh start.
I think that might be it.
Fair.
I think he doesn't want
it's rebuild number 9 or 10 out of Arizona. So, like, I understand. But at the same time, like, it feels like if you're the GM or the management for the Coyotes, why would you put it out there that you're dangling him? Because he's a key piece that you want to build around.
But if you're Jakob Chychrun, and we don't talk enough about branding, but this is a guy that should have been legitimately this is a guy that should have been on the Olympic radar. This is a guy that should have been one of those automatics. Like, if you watch him, everyone had Shea Theodore except Sean, but Jakob Chychrun should have been one of those locks on the Canadian Olympic team. Like, you look at him and you look at what he does.
Even at his age?
Yeah. And considering the left side of the defense core in Canada, he should be on there. He should be part of that conversation, and he's not. And I think that's partially because he's in Arizona, and it's not a place like we talk about players that look. You talked about Jack Campbell's getting notoriety partially because he plays in Toronto. Zach Hyman was getting Olympic consideration when he was playing in Toronto, was getting a conversation. Now all of a sudden it's Bunting getting on some people's Olympic radar. I think of Jakob Chychrun, he wants to be in a place where hockey's more serious. And if you're at 23 and you're playing at that level, why do you want to play in Arizona right now?
From the player perspective, I'm in 110% in agreement with you. I just was talking strictly from the organizational standpoint.
Oh, for sure. I would not be trading Jakob Chychrun.
He told him that he would welcome a change of scenery. They realized that they could get a king's ransom for him, so they dropped him in the GM group chat. Chychrun is available.
But no, he definitely has had the Barkov-esque treatment. I will agree with that. That because he's not in a hockey mad market, he is flown under the radar and is a top tier or pushing for top tier status at a impressively young age.
Yeah, I'll be very, very, very keenly interested
watching that situation play out,
and watching that, and what the return is. Yeah, he's a left shot, left side guy, but he's still 23. He's very good. He scored a lot last season, like at an obscene rate. He's not going to do that. I doubt he does that again, but he can be close. Like, he scored 18 goals last season in 56 games as a defenseman on a shitty team.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, he was 41 points in 56 games. Like, he may not be like an absolutely perfect defensive stud, but he's going to be, as Kevin said, when we go back to where the transition is, that's exactly what Winnipeg needs.
Yeah.
They need a point producing defenseman that teams need to respect. That's why I fucking love that the Canucks have Quinn Hughes.
And not only that, but that would turn Winnipeg's defense from an above average defense to an elite defense.
Mm-hmm. But the
Yeah,
other
I
thing
would.
with Winnipeg is that they desperately need to figure out that bottom six.
Yeah, they do.
Like
Chychrun is a step, but you need to find that. You need to find some depth in that back end.
I
And
believe the Canucks' favorite term is secondary scoring or tertiary scoring.
I prefer my old school way, what says sandpaper, because I think that that's what Winnipeg was. Like, when Maurice was at its best last year, he that bottom six, when Winnipeg is going well, just allowed them to do some really different, interesting things. Like, as an example, 3 forwards on 3-on-3 overtime, which I thought was I was really surprised that more teams weren't thinking about that, but Maurice did. I'm still a Paul Maurice fan, by the way. I think he's a good coach. I think he's going to land on his feet. I think someone will hire him eventually when he's ready to come back. But that bottom six right now, that is what's killing them. Like, they rely so much on Scheifele, Connor, and Wheeler. I mean, I'll have to do the stats one day when I have a bit of time, but I think that's way too high of a percentage from a first line scoring. They're just, like, especially when you get into playoffs.
Well, they don't even have Wheeler now either. Like, he's gone for a long time.
Yeah.
That top six when they had
ACL,
was
right?
great. Pardon?
Was that an ACL? Like, I know it was knee-ish related, right?
Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's probably gone for a couple months.
That's why I'm actually surprised that they let Perfetti go. Actually, it kind of happened after, but
yeah.
I bet you they wish they didn't let Perfetti go to the World Juniors, because they have Christian Vesalainen in their top six. Like, they've got Andrew Kopp and Adam Lowry anchoring that third line, but the fourth line is just thrown out there. CJ Seuss, who, like, is your fourth line center? Like, they need to figure that depth out. But again, I think that's part of a lot of teams' problems right now that aren't quite running at are going at the pace that they thought they would, is that their depth players are not stepping up that they thought they would. And it's probably one of the biggest reasons why you look at a team like the Calgary Flames, who got off to such a hot start. Guess what? It was because they had depth throughout the lineup. That they were able to. They had Andrew Mangiapane playing third and fourth line minutes, and he was scoring at a 60-goal pace.
Yeah,
he shouldn't have been playing that, but it's depth throughout the lineup that is what separates these teams, and the Winnipeg doesn't have it right now, especially up front.
Yeah, and I mean, from the Flames perspective, I know that I'm not going to be popular on Flames Twitter for saying this, but I while I do think they need to spice up that offense, I think they need to fix that defensive depth too. I do not believe, like, Gabranson and Zadorov have been fine for now, but once this gets into playoff heat, I am not convinced that that's enough. But anyway, yeah.
Well, that's where you desperately need a Valimaki to step up.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, and that's an interesting.
If we're talking, that is absolutely where you need him to step up. That is where, if he can step up, then you can run with one of Gudbranson or Zadorov on that third pair. Hannafin Anderson has been good enough. Shillington Tanev has been fantastic.
Shillington has taken a step back, and that's Shillington has taken a little bit of a step back, though, I think, and I mean, I agree with you that it's been a revelation, but at the same time, during a playoff run, we haven't seen Shillington at that point yet. So there has to be some caution, but, it's a good sign.
He was never going to be playing at that pace that he was before. That was, like, just unsustainable. And that's not saying that it's bad. Like, he's bad. He was
obviously on a good run.
Yeah, but he's still He's finally showing what a lot of people thought he could be at the NHL level. And I still think he's a good. I think he can be a top 4 defenseman for the Flames, especially when paired with a solid anchor like Chris Tanev, an anchor in
like
a good
Dad.
role. Yeah. So yeah, I think the Flames do need to. If Valimaki can't make that next step in the next 2 months, look for the Flames to be making the move for a defenseman at the near the deadline too.
Yeah, I actually think that's more of a priority than scoring. Not that scoring isn't a priority, but I do think you need to fix that defense first. I mean, again, I know there's Flames fans out there asking about Thomas Hertl. I just think that is a hard trade to make.
What are you giving up to get Thomas Hertl?
That's what I want to know, because I don't think the Flames have the assets to do it.
Because if I'm San Jose, guess who I'm asking for right off the bat?
Majapani.
Well, no,
large fries.
If San Jose is making a futures move, right? That's the other thing. Is San Jose is right in the mix too, right? They're moving Hertl. They're in the mix. But if San Jose falls out of it, they're going to be looking for a rebuild move. They're looking for futures. And
so who's your ask if you're San Jose for Calgary?
I mean, for
I'm
me,
Coronado right off the
Zary.
bat. Zary or Coronado.
Zary. I think Coronado is a complete and utter unknown at this point. You go with the mainstay guy that you know could potentially replace Hertl in your top 6 at center, and that's Zary.
I like what I've seen of Coronado, so I wouldn't be surprised if his name comes up. But there's certainly some potential there. But I just don't think the Flames have the assets to get Hertl. I know that Flames fans want that, but I don't see that happening.
It's going to be like Hertl is a UFA at the end of this year, so your rental prices at the deadline are usually pretty high. So it will be a first round pick and a top prospect. Are the Flames willing to give that up? I don't think so.
And again, that top prospect in comparison to other top prospects is where that comes into question. So if you're putting Connor Zary there, if Winnipeg, just as an example, is tossing a Cole Perfetti in there, or the Oilers are tossing a Xavier Bourgeau in there, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I put Bourgeau and Zary on a similar level, but I have Perfetti a step above.
Yeah, right. So that's the other issue that I think comes into play here is which prospects are up, and
are you willing? Yeah, again, are they willing to give them up too? And that's the that's the big deal.
Because we don't know what it's going to look like in March.
What hole does Hertl fill?
In Calgary, I assume that people see him as a top scoring defense center because they aren't seeing Sean Monahan there. But people are forgetting that Monahan is recovering from a long-term injury.
The other thing is, it's not like they're missing that. They got Elias Lindholm and they've got Michael Backlund.
I don't think that this can I make a controversial statement? Well, I will make a controversial statement. I don't think Flames fans have appreciated Michael Backlund enough. I really don't. I think that they look at this guy as a third or fourth line center. Every time that this guy has been a guy that everyone thinks he needs to be in the bottom of the lineup, he continues to prove why he stays in the top 6. When Michael Backlund's not always on his game, but when Michael Backlund is on his game, the Flames are tougher to beat. And I know that everyone is upset at Blake Coleman's offensive output. That's not bothering me because I don't think that they brought in Blake Coleman necessarily for goals. I think they brought in Blake Coleman for other things.
The same reason why Tampa brought him in. Like they wanted him for like more on the defensive depth side of things as opposed to his offensive output.
Exactly. And if I'm the Flames, if I need a forward, oh God, okay, Sean's going to lay back here and just enjoy this part. But no, it's legit. They need a right shot shooting forward. They need a top 6 right shot shooting forward. And last I checked, Thomas Hertl does not shoot that way. So
I'm
that would
looking
be
at
my
the Flames lineup that they had going back. I just had to remind myself. You've got that top line. It's set. Johnny, Elias, and Matthew, right? Gaudreau, Lindholm, Kachuk. That's your top line. Coleman, Backlund, Mangiapane is a very good line. Like, anyone saying otherwise is wrong. I hate it because I'm a Canucks fan. I hate saying that. Then you've the issue. I honestly, it is legitimately, if you can get a top 6 sort of caliber right shot player where you could play move Dubé back to the left and have Monahan, Dubé, Monahan, and then insert a top 6 caliber player there. That'd be huge. You move Lucic down to the 4th line where he's a lot more effective. You could I think it would make so much more sense. It would really, really help that the Flames to have that, and you'd have a deadly top 9.
Yeah.
And that right side, that right side winger needs to be physical too.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah,
because that is Daryl Sutter hockey, and B with you need to drag Monahan into the fight there. If you can have Dubé and a player of that ilk dragging Monahan into that'd be a deadly third line, especially in the playoffs. That'd be a matchup killer.
Yeah. I don't see her. I sometimes I feel weird because everyone has these ideas and they're chanting them out there, and I just look at them and I'm like, I don't see it the same way, and maybe I'm a weirdo, but I just don't see Hurdle being I don't see Hurdle being a fit in Calgary.
Again, I just look at where is he fitting in? Are they making a Hurdle for Monahan swap?
The San Jose is going to say no, thank you, not interested. Sorry.
Yeah.
Try something else.
Why would San Jose want that?
I'm not sure most teams in the NHL would say yes to that.
Well, honestly, if you can get Monahan for a steal of a deal, you take it and run, because next season and the next 2 seasons, I see him being back at Monahan pace.
Yeah,
this is the 20-30 goal scorer that we know he can be.
How old is he?
He's 26. 26, 27, somewhere in there. Not that old.
Really?
He's the same draft as Horvat.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, maybe
he was taken before
Calgary long enough that I just assumed that he was closer to 30.
He's just he made the Flames right out of camp after the draft, right? So
okay, fair enough.
Feels like he's been around forever, so he feels older than he actually is.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll concede to that.
He's 27.
Okay.
1994.
Yeah. Yeah.
He shares a birthday with Devin.
There we go. Happy birthday, Sean Monahan and Devin Holmesmith. Devin, we miss you. And we miss Tyler too. But the final thing here, there was a suspension. Brett Connolly was suspended for 4 games for a hit on why am I I didn't put the name down on my agenda. Sorry about that. But
Tanner Caro.
Yeah, I was going to say,
was that enough?
No. This is not that is a hit that should not be allowed. It should be the book should be thrown at it. Like, I'm someone who's going to say that, like, split second decisions and everything, like, but it's Caro wasn't even close to touching the puck. The puck was up on the glass. He absolutely made the wrong decision and needs to pay the price.
Was it shoulder to shoulder or shoulder to head? I will admit I haven't seen the highlight.
It's interference. It doesn't even matter, in my opinion.
Okay.
Whether or not it was headshot or not, it was interference. Caro didn't even have the puck. Didn't even have a chance to make a play on the puck. Brett Connolly made a decision to pinch in and make a play on the body before realizing what the puck was actually doing.
If I'm off base, correct me. But are we saying that this is a Rome on Horton level hit?
No, not even close. Because
Okay.
Horton actually touched the puck.
Okay, fair enough. No, I'm just trying to, because like I said, I admit that I haven't seen the hit, so I'm just trying to get a frame of mind as far
All right,
as.
so just to draw the picture in your mind there, Chris. Yeah, Brett Connolly was covering the point for his defenseman who had pinched in already. The Dallas Stars had rung the puck around. It was up on the glass.
Oh, okay.
And Connolly made the decision when the defenseman had the puck to pinch in and make the physical play, which is a fair play if it's the right decision. If it's the right situation, this was not the right situation.
Because
I'm not saying, and the puck was rimmed up on the glass and out, and he did not make a big enough attempt to avoid the collision, and he absolutely rocked Tanner Caro. If Caro had the puck, it might have been a clean hit, but he didn't. And for me, I'm annoyed and I'm kind of pissed that Jason Spetz's suspension got knocked back, because I agree with you. I think that was absolute Bettman caving
Yeah.
to I don't even know what
to Toronto.
That was a 6 games and should have been 6 games.
That should have been
start
absolutely.
to finish. It should not have been. It should not have been. Just, and I'm not saying Spetz is a dirty player or a bad player at all.
Because he doesn't have the history, and that's probably why he got the benefit of the doubt from Bettman. But no, he for what he did, he deserved 6.
Stop throwing history in there. Like, if it's a bad, unless it's a bad history of repeat decisions.
If it's a Torres like situation,
no, it's a dirty play. Like suspend it and punish it properly, and then don't cave to this stupid appeal process. Like,
yeah, to me, that was a no-brainer. That was 6 games. I know Leaf fans, Leaf fans are going to disagree with us on that one, but that was a 6-game suspension. That to me, that is a dirty play. People are saying he couldn't have stopped it. He admitted as much that was a revenge play for what Pionk did there with his hit on drawing the blank here. Sorry, good podcast today, Kevin. But that was a bit of a revenge.
You're bang on, Kevin. You're bang on. That's the other issue. I wish Devin was here, honestly, because I would love to hear his take on this. But the fact that it was a retribution style, retribution play, to me actually makes it should have been more.
Yeah. And
has Pionk been actually injured? Well, let's look at this. Like, had Pionk been injured the way had been injured enough that he would have missed significant games, are we looking at another situation that is similar? Like, just I don't. It's a bit of a stretch, but a Bertuzzi situation.
That is a stretch to me.
He was on his knees.
There was
no reason to hit him.
I get where Sean's coming from, like, conceptually, but yeah, I will agree with Kevin as far as, like, it's not a perfect apples to apples comparison. So
it's not. I was halfway through it and I'm like, I don't necessarily like the complete comparison, but it's a retribution play.
And
it was a play on a defenseless player.
That's where the Bertuzzi thing comes into play. It was an unabashedly retribution revenge play, and that alone deserved the 6 games. Never mind how injured Pionk was.
Yeah,
and he was in concussion protocol, by the way. Pionk was.
Oh yeah, and if anything, that helps justify the need for more.
It should have been more, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, getting back to the Brett Connolly one, I just think it should have been 6. I think you should make sure that it is. You put it on, or even throw 5 at him. I know it's one game, but put him in a in-person hearing. Put him in that situation where he has to make a decision whether or not, because the more strict you are on those hits, the better. Like we talked in the last podcast, we talked about how I was surprised that Trouba got off for the Kara hit. Because when I looked at that, I was very, like, I think that's a clean hit. But I've also seen hits get punished that are very similar. And it's a very, very fine line as to what is clean and what is clean and what is considered dirty or an illegal hit. But the Spezza on Pionk and now this, and then the Brett Connolly on Tanner Caro are completely across the line and should be punished accordingly. Should be punished severely.
Well, this is why I'm going to bring Jennifer Botterill's name into this. And at the very least, there needs. I mean, we've talked about this. I hear Tyler saying something about being cynical about this is never going to happen. But I think at least player safety needs to start looking. There needs to be a 3-person panel on player safety. This should not be on one person. There should be 3 people involved in this. And that's why I think Jennifer Botterill should be, if she does not get the Canucks AGM job, she should be a person in consideration for that. She is passionate about it. I think there needs to be a long look on that. And both from the NHL and the NHLPA perspective, think there needs to be a long look of how that is player safety is looked at. And it's not only about hits. I think some of these, I'll add a couple of situations here. I think as the season returns, I think that there needs to be a COVID cap adjustment now with teams, because I do not think that teams should be playing undermanned. I think that is also a player safety issue. And I think that there needs to be, I think the e-bug needs to be moved into some sort of third goaltender that can be on a taxi squad. I think that those are 3 things that need to be changed. I think player safety, one of the things that maybe needs to come out of all of this pandemic from the NHL perspective is a whole reevaluation of player safety, because I think that they are just looking at one thing, and I think it's a lot more, and they are missing the mark, and they need more than one person involved in that role.
Okay, so I have 2 questions. Do you think Peros is part of that 3-person panel? Is my first question.
If I had my charge, no.
Fair enough. And the other question, crap. Totally just lost the train of thought as I was about to say it. No! I lost it.
One thing I'm going to say is, you know who needs to be part of this and be spearheading this, and they're not, because they're too busy protecting players' paychecks, is the PA.
Yeah, that's why I said the NHLPA.
I am so tired of people yelling and screaming at just player safety when it's the PA who guess what? They were the ones who supported Jason Spezza's appeal for a absolutely dirty play. You need to be the PA needs to be protecting the players' safety, not just their paychecks. They need to be protecting.
So I remember what
Go for
I
it,
remembered
Chris.
what my second question was. So basically, if you want to bring in like a return of the taxi squad as well as like a cap relief, like is that like a two prong approach that you're talking about, Kevin? Or are you talking more specifically in one direction?
Well, it has like part of the problem, like if you look at what happened to the St. Louis Blues this year, they've been playing undermanned. They're fully vaccinated. If teams are fully vaccinated and if players are getting hit with COVID and are fully vaccinated, the team should not be punished for not being able to house a lineup during a pandemic. To me, that just doesn't make any sense. And if I was a St. Louis Blues fan, I would be and we were a St. Louis Blues focused podcast, there would be a couple of rants of how they have been royally screwed by this.
Islanders as well.
Islanders as well. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me. This is, and I'm going to get political on here a little bit too, but this is one of my frustrations is people have done everything that leadership have asked, and they are still getting hit with punishment. There is no adjustment the other way. And I know that people are going to say, well, COVID doesn't care. That's not my point. It's my point on this is if you're asking people to do stuff and they're still getting hit, you need to adjust to help. If we are supposed to be working together, if we're all in this together, then we need to be acting together. And I think that's where COVID cap relief needs to come in. That doesn't make sense to me. If if your team is fully vaccinated, they have taken the steps that have been asked, and you're still punishing them for cap. I'm sorry, that's a misstep.
So to, I guess, be more concise, that's a yes to both aspects, taxi squad as well as like a cap relief sort of thing.
Yeah,
There
needs to be something along
there needs to be
lines.
something. I mean, I want to be careful of not hurting EAHL, but there has to be something in place here that allows some sort of relief for teams.
Well, for what it's worth, the AHL is meant to be a developmental league, and they are, to a degree, used to basically having to deal with a tough situation due to whatever the NHL main team has put them into. So, I can see that the AHL is, of any league, is the most prepared to, I guess, be more additionally decimated roster-wise due to the NHL.
Yeah, but I mean, the counter to that too is I agree with you, but the AHL sells tickets and you want to get as good of a product as you can out there as well. So this is a player safety issue in hockey too, but there should be some sort of squad that, I think an increase of roster or something and cap relief needs to happen for NHL teams.
It's the cap relief, Kev. I think you find a way to. The border is open. You can have players go back and forth, but there also should be. Although the Bruins went through this where they actually could call anyone up from their AHL team because they were going through a COVID situation. So there's no good answer. Again, no silver bullets, but I do agree with you that that's like the fact that they're punishing teams even though they're in a pandemic for all this and having to have them play even though they went through everything and got vaccinated like they should, like that, I think it is not right, and I think there needs to be something. Unfortunately, they should have done this at the beginning of the season. Unfortunately, I think Bettman will be stubborn enough not to change anything because of he will be afraid of any sort of blowback because of what the Blues and the Hurricanes and the Islanders have all gone through when playing shorthanded.
Basically, if they have to, you have to too, sort of attitude.
Yeah, I think that's where the NHL is at, unfortunately.
Maybe my last comment on this podcast is I think we've said it before. I think I've said it before, but I think the other thing that needs to come out of all of this, it's time for a new commissioner. I'm sorry. It's time for a new direction of the National Hockey League. And there will be owners that disagree with me because he is putting money in their pocket. But I think that there is a need for innovation. There has been a need for adaptation, and this is a guy that is refusing to do it. And I think
there's a need for empathy.
Yeah,
from the top. Before you go, Chris, before you go, I've been thinking about this for a couple weeks here, and I am I completely understand the owners wanting to keep Bettman there because of all the money they've made him. But the world's changed. The world is wanting empathy. The world is wanting to be led by people who understand and are trying to help evolve and grow the league, the sport, not just the league. Because I think that's the major disconnect between the fans and the owners. The owners who are ones who control who's the commissioner. Bettman has helped them grow the league. But in terms of growing the game, he hasn't.
And as they've gotten to a 32-team precipice, I feel like this is like the perfect tipping point to move on to a new GM, because they've gotten to the same size as the NFL and I think also the MLB. Like, basically, they're on par with the other big majors as far as team numbers. So if you want to, I guess, improve the overall health of the league, now that you've gotten it to this size, yeah, it's probably time for a new direction. The only question that I also wanted to add is, does that also mean Daly goes out with Bettman?
Yes.
Yes.
Fair.
Yep.
I was expecting that answer, but I thought it was worth asking anyway.
You need a completely new voice in there that can show the empathy, that can help grow. They keep talking about hockey is for everyone, but it rings hollow. It rings hollow because they'll say it, and they'll say I won't really say everything right, but they'll say all the right bulletin points.
They have a good marketing team,
but then the follow up is crap.
Yeah, the marketing is there, but the authenticity behind it is not.
Yeah, the fact that like there are people legitimately questioning whether or not the NHL has done well with
Kyle Beach,
with Kyle Beach, let alone the Hockey Alliance,
yeah. Isn't it?
Sorry,
yeah,
I can't remember their name.
Oh,
the Black
Girl Alliance.
It's
not the Black Girl Hockey Club, because that's the name of what you're referencing. But we're talking about, is it DHA, Diversity Hockey Alliance?
Diversity Hockey Alliance, yeah.
Because it was the one that Subban's a part of, and all that, right?
Yeah.
The fact that they don't feel heard still says a lot to me. And I will protect this sport a lot more than maybe I should. But my biggest thing is I think it's time. It really is time for a new voice leading the sport, leading this community. And unfortunately, right now, the person leading that is Gary Bettman, because he is the commissioner of the biggest league and the highest league in the world in terms of skill, in terms of everything. So I think it's just for me, it's just time. It's time for a new voice, and I think and I'm not like I think a lot of the time Gary Bettman has the right idea, but he's too much of a lawyer
that the execution gets messed up in it. Yeah.
And
I know why you brought up Subban earlier, just because of name recognition and the fact that he was in the most recent commercial about the hockey is for everyone. But I feel like if we're talking about the Hockey Alliance and the people that have stepped up majorly for that, I feel like we need to say Dumba's name.
Yes.
He's probably been the most instrumental as far as putting a face to that group.
Yeah, it's the Hockey Diversity Alliance at the official HDA on Twitter. I'm throwing that out there because I think everyone needs to be aware of it. I think it's time. I really do think it's time for a new leader, someone who has a little more empathy, who isn't as much of a lawyer. Because they'll release all the press release and all that, but as soon as you get in the nitty gritty with Gary Bettman, he will avoid and he will not show empathy, and he will do everything to avoid any sort of litigation issues possible.
Yeah. No, I think we're all in agreement with that. Yeah. Ultimately, at that point, I think it's probably time to put a pin in this now that we're over 2 hours.
Yeah, I feel like Tyler would be private messaging us and saying we're well over time.
I'll be honest.
Heidi's already messaging me. Are you done? Oh no, YouTube says you're still live.
Well, we will leave it there. We have some things. We have an announcement coming up. I think that's the best way to say what I say. So keep an eye for a special
got some things cooking.
Yeah, about the future of the podcast, which is not a terrible thing. Please like and subscribe, share, retweet, all of that sort of stuff. We would really appreciate it. We are continuing to grow slowly but surely. And we'll be doing World Junior recap starting next week. I am planning to do that. We'll be bringing in guests for that. And we're we're off until Christmas, basically. I don't think there's really any other hockey to talk about because there's no hockey to talk about.
Yep.
Unless there's some breaking news, but I
think 3 games tomorrow, and nothing after that.
Yeah.
2
games tomorrow, 1 game tonight.
3 games total this week.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So I'll do this right now. Where the week is going to be cheer, because that's what we want. We want to cheer on our hockey team after Christmas. We've got holiday cheer. Cheer is the word of the week for the Pig and Puck contest with the Pig and Duke here in Calgary. If you want to go to a hopefully April 23rd game, now with everything going on, there's no guarantee that it will be April 23rd, but it'll be near the end of the season Calgary versus Vancouver game, where you'll get to go join Chris, Devin, and I at the Pig and Duke on 12th Ave and 12th Street Southwest here in Calgary. Before the game, we'll get a limo to the game. You'll get to watch the game with us. Then we'll get limoed back to the Pig and Duke. And guess what? It's a Saturday. Hopefully it's a 23rd because it's a Saturday, and we'll be able to continue the talk
festivities
and the festivities afterwards. Hopefully. But as I said, the Pig and Puck word of the week is cheers.
There we go. And how do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
I am Matt Schneids on most social media.
Tyler TNOBLE, Devin Gordhow09, podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, the hockey podcast, YouTube.com, the hockey podcast. Merry Christmas to all of you that celebrate it. There'll probably be, I'll do 1 news pack between the next 3 days, get everything caught up. But we will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now. Oh, and reminder, we have a special announcement coming as well. Stay tuned for that. Now, bye for now.